Leviticus 3 Fellowship Offerings. If you offer one of your cattle as a fellowship offering, it can be a bull or a cow, but the animal you offer to the Lord must have nothing wrong with it. You must put your hand on the animal's head and kill the animal at the entrance of a meeting tent. Then Aaron's sons, the priest, will splash the blood on all four sides of the altar. The priest will take a part of that fellowship offering as a gift to the Lord. He will take the fat that is over and around the inner part. He will take the two kidneys and the fat covering them near the lower back muscle. He will also remove the fat part of the liver that is near the kidneys. Then Aaron's sons will bring the fat to the altar and put it on the burnt offering that is on the wood on the fire. It is a sweet-smelling gift to the Lord. If you offer a sheep or a goat as a fellowship offering to the Lord, whether it is male or female, it must have nothing wrong with it. If you bring a ram as an offering to the Lord, you must put your hand on the animal's head and kill it in front of the meeting tent. Then Aaron's sons will splash the animal's blood on the four sides of the altar. The priest will take part of the fellowship offering to the altar as a gift to the Lord. The priest must cut off the tail close to the backbone. Then he will offer the tail with all its fat and the fat that is over and around the animal's inner part. He also offered the two kidneys and the fat covering them near the lower back muscles. He will also offer the fat part of the liver. He must remove it with the kidneys. Then the priest will take that part to the altar to be burned up as food, gift to the Lord. If the offering is a goat, you must bring it before the Lord. You must put your hand on the goat head and kill it in front of the meeting tent. Then Aaron's sons, the priest, must splash the goat's blood on the four sides of the altar. The priest will give part of the fellowship offering as a gift to the Lord. He will offer the fat that is over and around the animal's inner parts. He will offer the two kidneys and the fat covering them near the lower back muscle. He will also offer the fat part of the liver. He will remove it with the kidneys. Then the priest will bring that food as a sweet-smelling gift to the Lord. The fat belongs to the Lord. This rule will continue forever through all your generations. Whenever you live, you must never eat fat or blood. Leviticus 4 Offerings for accidental sins. The Lord spoke to Moses and said, "Tell the Israelites this: a person might sin without meaning to and do something that the Lord commanded should not be done. For example, if the anointed priest make a mistake that leaves the people guilty for their sin, he must offer a young bull to the Lord as a sin offering. The bull must have nothing wrong with it. The anointed priest must bring the bull to the entrance of the meeting tent in front of the Lord. He must put his hand on the bull's head and kill the bull in front of the Lord. Then the anointed priest must get some of the blood from the bull and take it into the meeting tent. He must put his finger in the blood and sprinkle the blood 7 times before the Lord in front of the curtain of the most holy place. The priest must put some of the blood on the corners of the incense altar. This altar is in the meeting tent in front of the Lord. He must pour out the rest of the bull's blood at the base of the altar of burnt offering. This altar is at the entrance of the meeting tent. Then the priest must take all the fat from the bull of the sin offerings. He must take a fat that is on and around the inner part. He must take the 2 kidneys and the fat covering them near the lower back muscle. He must also take the fat part of the liver. He must remove it with the kidneys. The priest must lift up these things and burn them on the altar for burnt offerings, just as he does for the fellowship offering. But the priest must carry out the bull's skin, inner parts and body waste, and all the meat, including the head and legs. He must carry those parts outside the camp to the special place where the ashes are poured out. He must put those parts on the wood and burn them there on the ash pile. The whole nation of Israel must sin without knowing it. They might break out of the commands of the Lord and become guilty of doing something He said must not be done. When they learn about the sin, the community of Israel must offer a young bull as a sin offering for the whole nation. They must bring the bull to the meeting tent. The elders of the people must put their hands on the bull's head in front of the Lord. Then they must kill the bull in front of the Lord. The anointed priest must get some of the bull's blood and take it into the meeting tent. He must put his finger in the blood and sprinkle it 7 times in front of the curtain before the Lord. He must put some of the blood on the corners of the altar. This altar is inside the meeting tent in front of the Lord. He must then pour out all the blood at the base of the altar of burnt offering. This altar is at the entrance of the meeting tent. Then he must take all the fat from the animal and bring it up to the altar. He must offer this part, just as he offered the bull of his sin offering. In this way, the priest will make the people pure, and God will forgive them. The priest must carry this bull outside the camp and burn it, just as he burned the all other bull. This is the sin offering for the whole community. A ruler might sin without meaning to and break one of the commands of the Lord. He might do something that his God said must not be done. If he run about his sin, he must bring a male goat that has nothing wrong with it as his offering. The ruler must put his hands on God's head and kill the goat at the place where they kill the burnt offering before the Lord. The goat is a sin offering. The priest will take some of the blood of the sin offering on his finger and put it on the corner of the altar of burnt offering. He will pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. The priest will burn all the goat fat on the altar, just as he does for the fellowship offerings. In this way, the priest will make the ruler poor, and God will forgive him. Finally, one of you common people might sin without meaning to. You might break one of the commands of Lord and become guilty of doing something he said must not be done. If you learn about that sin, you must bring a female goat that has nothing wrong with it as your sin offering. You must put your hands on the animal's head and kill it at the place for the burnt offering. Then the priest will take some of the goat blood on his finger and put it on the corners of the altar of burnt offering. He will pour out the rest of its blood at the base of the altar. The priest will then remove all of its fat, just as he does for the fellowship offerings. Then he will bring it to the altar as a sweet smell to the Lord. The priest will do this to make you pure, and God will forgive you. If you bring a ram as your sin offering, then you must bring a female lamb that has nothing wrong with it. You must put your hands on the animal's head and kill it as a sin offering in the place where people kill the burnt offering. The priest will take some of the blood from the sin offering on his finger and put it on the corners of the altar of burnt offering. He pour out the rest of the lamb's blood at the base of the altar. He will then remove all the ram's fat, just as he does for the fellowship offerings. Then he will bring it to the altar as a gift to the Lord. The priest will do this to make you pure, and God will forgive you. Leviticus 5. Different accidental sins. You might be called as a witness and take an oath to tell the truth. If you saw something or knew something but did not tell it, you are guilty of doing wrong and must bear the responsibility for your guilt. You might touch something unclean. It might be the dead body of any kind of animal. You might not know that you touched these things, but you will still become unclean and must pay a fine. You might touch any of the many things that can make a person unclean. You might touch something unclean, but not know about it. When you learn that you have touched something unclean, you must pay a fine. You might make a quick promise to do something. It makes no difference if it is bad or good. People make many kinds of quick promises. You might make such a promise and forget it. When you remember your promise, you must pay a fine because you did not keep it. If you are guilty of any of these things, you must confess whatever you did wrong. Then you must bring your guilt offering to the Lord for the sin you did. You must bring a female lamb or a female goat as a sin offering. The priest will do this to make you pure from your sin. If you cannot afford the lamb, you must bring 2 doves or 2 young pigeons to the Lord. This will be the guilt offering for your sin. 1 bird must be for a sin offering, and the other must be for a burnt offering. take them to the priest first. The priest will offer one bird for the sin offering. The priest will pull the bird's head from its neck, but he will not pull it off completely. The priest will sprinkle the blood from the sin offering on the side of the altar. Then he will pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. It is a sin offering. Then he will offer the second bird according to the rules for a burnt offering. The priest will do this to make you pure from the sin you did, and God will forgive you. If you can't afford 2 doves or 2 pigeons, you must bring 8 cups of fine, pure flour as your sin offering. You must not put oil or frankincense on the flour, because it is a sin offering. You must bring the flour to the priest. The priest will take a handful of the flour as a memorial offering and bring it to the altar as a gift to the Lord. It is a sin offering. The priest will do this to make you pure, and God will forgive you. The part that is left will belong to the priest, just as the regular grain offering. The Lord gave this command to Moses for the people. You might promise to give something to the Lord. You might sin against me without meaning to by not giving what you promised. If you do that, you must bring a ram that has nothing wrong with it, or the same amount in silver using the official measure as a guilt offering. You must give what you promised and add 1/5 of that amount as a fine. Give it to the priest, and he will use the ram to make you pure, and God will forgive you. If you sin and break any of the command that the Lord said must not be done, you are guilty. Even if you did not know about it, you are still responsible for your sin. You must bring a ram. There's nothing wrong with it, or the same amount in silver, to the priest. The priest will offer the ram. The God will forgive you for the sin you did without knowing it. You are guilty, and you must pay the guilt offering to the Lord. Guilt offerings for other sins.